Hi, everybody. It's David Sereda here at davidsereda.co. You can see my website underneath to the left of me. So today I decided, I've been doing pendants that are vibrationally activated since the year 2003 or 4. I was appointed director of the Tesla Foundation by MIT physicist Bogdan Magwitch in about 1994 and I spoke in the United States Congress on nuclear fusion in that year. So I became very interested in the idea of vibration being stored in a crystal lattice. And both metallic material, such as this brass, or quartz or gem, this has a ruby in the middle of it. They all have crystal lattices. Everything on the periodic table has a crystal lattice. So therefore, everything is actually a crystal, even though when we think of crystal, we would think of this is an amethyst, very high quality crystal donut. But actually, everything has a crystal lattice. And basically, information and vibration can get trapped in a lattice. And I became really interested in this when I saw this research that pottery that dated back hundreds to thousands of years ago that contained natural types of iron, when the pottery was fired and then it cooled down, it had memorized the position of the Earth's north and south pole, like on a compass, at the time of the firing. Which means when scientists measured the magnetic field on the clay pottery, it had memorized and stored the position of where Earth's North Pole was at the time of firing it. And you know how weak the magnetic field of the Earth is to move your compass to find magnetic north? And magnetic north is constantly migrating. So I decided I wanted to know how that happened. And I also wanted to see if stone or crystals could affect the human nervous system. So I did these tests in Sedona, Arizona in the early days. In about 2003, I was walking around with a common voltmeter, and then I would attach a stone to my body, to my skin, and see if there's any improvement in the voltage and current in the body, which would then mean that my aura or my magnetic field had some type of an improvement. And I could see definite tiny changes. They're very tiny because I'm measuring thousandths of a volt. And I said, if you can benefit the magnetic field of the body, then you through stone age technology or crystal technology, then what would a person experience? And in my years of studying physics and being director of the Tesla Foundation and how Tesla generated the first radio frequencies, I became very interested in harmonic versus disharmonic, or disproportional frequencies versus harmonic frequencies, and how that might affect the body. And could I store it in a crystal that somebody could wear? And we actually did this I built my first lab in Sedona, Arizona in about 2003 or 4. And people would wear these and connect with these pendants that had been vibrationally activated. And it was incredible what you could see. In fact, in conferences where I was lecturing, people would go to the aura camera booth and get a photo of their aura, and then go get one of my pendants and put it on and see if it changed their aura. And every single time there was a significant improvement. So why was it happening? And so I started developing more and more frequencies. I started calculating all the frequencies of the Great Pyramid of Egypt, and we took the recording that NASA did of the frequencies and through the sound that our sun makes. And I started calculating the frequencies of all the 9 planets, the human chakra system, the human energy system. And I found that patterns of frequencies or ratios of frequencies were far more powerful than single point frequencies. For example, I could treat pendants with 432 as a perfect frequency, and there's a benefit to that for sure, because 432 is a perfect middle A harmonic. But if I put in a series of 432 octaves and then vibrated a pendant with that, I would feel something totally different. And I've been doing this since 2003, 4, 5, and improving it, improving it, improving it. And in the early days, I had partners in Sedona, and they ran off and stole my first lab. So I made a way better lab. I found out there's a way better way of doing this. And I started, because I worked for Magwitch, and I was around Nobel Prize winning physicists like Glenn Seaborg and Murray Gell-Mann and Norman Rostocker and so many brilliant physicists working on this benign form of environmentally pure deuterium helium-3 fusion. And I knew everything about the reactor and how it worked. I realized why we hadn't attained nuclear fusion yet and how we became so close in those days, in the 90s. And in fact, if the government had put serious money into the nuclear fusion, you wouldn't see the news that I read on CNN today that there's a crisis, there's not enough electricity in America because everybody's starting to buy electric cars, and we don't have enough electricity to recharge all these things on top of our ordinary demands. And we're not even at 1% of electric cars yet. So what the sun is doing that nobody seemed to have noticed is it's producing a crushing wave. Oh, hand me the phone. I think Sharo's disappeared. Oh, she's not there. So what it did, can everybody hear me first of all? Because I lost my assistant. I just want to see if anybody can tell me if you're still there. Anybody here? Hand me the phone. I don't know if I'm really here. Hang on, everybody, just a second. Not sure if everybody's there.
Are you still there? I lost you.
No, I'm here.
Okay. Well, I don't know, something's up here.
Everyone can hear me, but they can't see you.
Okay, that's okay. Keep talking.
Okay. So here's what's missing in the sun. So have you ever seen, if you throw kettle hot water in the air in minus 30 or 40 outside, it explodes, and you'll see the hot water, which is just hydrogen and oxygen, and what's fusing in our sun is helium and hydrogen, right? So when the hot outgoing wave meets the cold blanket of the air, it shocks it. And what we haven't seen in the study of nuclear fusion, I did this for 20 years with these brilliant physicists, is the temperature of space, which is surrounding the sun, is minus 273 degrees centigrade, right? So it's so cold. It's way colder than minus 30 when you do the hot water experiment with your hot cup of boiling hot water, throwing it into minus 30 or 40. It's colder than that. So when the hot wave, plasma wave, leaves the sun, the surrounding blanket shocks it in. And so it's like a spherical holographic ring produces what's called a temperature differential shock, and an inward going wave crushes the helium and the hydrogen in the center of the sun, and it causes fusion. And when nuclear fusion is actually generating new elements, so all the elements on the periodic table, gold, tin, silver, copper, zinc, I mean, all of them are manufactured in stars through the fusion process. And whenever you make a new element, you release energy, excess energy, with which you can use to recharge electric cars and run light bulbs and computers and heaters and everything. So I realized that there's way more going on in the sun than anyone ever noticed through this massive temperature differential. And so I decided, in order to deepen the putting vibrations in material pendants for people's benefit, is I would build a drive, a miniature fusion drive that works on the same scale, but nowhere near as powerful as Magwich's fusion drive, but very powerful nonetheless. In order to penetrate the density of materials, I would be generating scalar as well as tachyon energy and infusing these crystal lattice pendants and gems, because when they come out of the drive, they go through 3 stages. I would touch them and I would get these little kundalini shivers going up my spine into my brain. And I've had so many letters from customers over the years, and this goes way back to 2003, 4, and 5, when I was building my first lab. They're all saying the same thing, and once they get one of these things on themselves, they don't take it off. And then I've had people say, "Well, I don't know if this is doing anything anymore," and they break it and they go, "Oh my God, I need to get another one because I can see what this thing has been really doing to me." So everything in the body, everything is about the vibrational state and the frequency state of the human nervous system, because the human nervous system is an electrical system. If
Can you
I
hear me
add,
okay?
what's that?
You can hear me now? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
If
Sorry.
I add something to my circuit, right, then the energy in the body will move through this circuit, this component in the circuit, and it'll share whatever vibrational memory is in that with my nervous system, and then I can have that experience. So if I put the sound of the sun, which is recorded by NASA in the pendant, people will feel a solar energy connection. They will report feeling incredible things. I mean, not just saying more energy or feeling better. Some people will sleep because they're so stressed out. All they needed was a purification of their nervous system to relax and let go. And for the first time in years, they're able to sleep. I mean, there's so many letters I've gotten over the years. And again, you can't scientifically prove or explain this to anybody who understands anything other than quantum physics, because everything comes down to energy perturbations and vibrations. I believe over the years, meditating for 45 years every single day and doing deep breath work. I mean, I've been doing deep breath work and breathing work since the early 1970s. And 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 yes, breath is very profound at awakening the energy currents in the body, but energy has to be harmonized and purified. So you can do a lot of hyperventilating breathing techniques, but that doesn't necessarily, I mean, it's good because it gets your energy going, but it doesn't purify and tune the nervous system and the way by perfect harmonic ratios do. So ratios transcend frequency, because the frequency is like one note. So imagine you had imagine all of your chakras are 7 points to 10 points, depending on how many chakras you use in your system, of a musical instrument. And I only play one of them. That's what one frequency does. So if I want to move energy through the system, I have to have 7 to 10 octaves or 7 to 10 tones in my biological music scale of it. So that's what I put in these. I have enormous menu of frequencies, and I've had people work for me and steal my frequencies and rename them and put their name on them. It's amazing what goes on out there in the world. Do the frequencies and the necklaces stay in there forever? They do, and that's really shocking to me, that I can pick up a piece that was charged 5 years ago, and the only way I'll know is if I take this one off for a week and I take my nervous system back to base, and then I pick up another one and I can feel it's still there. Now, remember, the studies on the magnetic field in the clay pottery, some of the clay pottery was over 500 years old, and it still had the perfect memory of where magnetic north was at the time the pottery was fired and cooled down and dried. How did it do it? What 500 years later, it's still there. But you see, when you understand that, so there's a question here about the shortcut to stillness. See, stillness and meditation, you can't take the mind and freeze the mind and make it not move, because it's like taking a cobra, a snake, and strangling it. I did this 10-day Buddhist retreat meditation, and you're really struggling with the mind. If you use the mind to stop the mind will kill you. It'll bite you back. That's not how you still the mind. You can't still the mind with the mind, because the mind isn't still. So if you have an unstilled mind, stilling the mind, it'll bite you back. And I had this dream that I had a cobra wrapped itself around me, and I had it by the neck. And I knew in the dream that the second I got tired and couldn't hold the grip on the cobra, it was going to bite me. And eventually, about half an hour into the dream of holding the cobra, I had to let go of him because I was too tired, and he bit me. So that's the mind trick. See, the mind can't still the mind, but harmony can still the mind. And when you really understand absolute, it's a let go stillness. It's not as, I mean, when you concentrate on a dot, like if I concentrate on a spot, right, then I'm myopic. Then I only see the spot. And the nature of the mind is you can't hold that spot forever. It's just like strangling the cobra. And if you hold the spot long enough, like really intense kung fu, eventually the spot is going to bite you back. And so how do you get to real 0 point? How do you get to real stillness? It's actually, I mean, it takes years to get good at this inside. I mean, when I meditate now, there's within 5 to 10 minutes, there's so much ecstasy. Most people could not withstand it. It's too bright. It's too intensely bright. So what are the 3 stages of meditation? They're all labeled in a secret kind of language in the original Lord's Prayer in Aramaic. O thou from whom the breath of life comes, and the breath of Adam, the ruach, when God breathed into Adam's nostrils and made Adam a living being. This is mythic symbolism. So there's the breath. O thou from whom the breath of life comes, who fills all realms with sound. Sound is frequency, light, and vibration, right? Because sound begets a wave, and wave begets actually light is born out of resistance to a wave. So as soon as wave encounters resistance, you get radiation, which is light, right? So those are the 3 stages of meditation: breath, sound, and frequency, and light is born naturally as a consequence. So what's happening is dependent. The question here is dependent doesn't do anything. It's storing an orientation of vibrational memory. It's not the same memory that your computer has, which is ones and zeros that represent the letter A, B, C, D, F, G, and all the millions of tones of colors. It's like if I put a needle on a phonographic record, the phonographic record, the vinyl, has etched within it the vibrations of the music. And when you run this very sensitive needle along that groove, it reanimates the music that was etched into it. So that's musical vibrational memory etched as a vibration. But the vibrational memory in the pendants is even more advanced than that. So yes, it stays there. It keeps your nervous system tuned, and you know it when you take one of these off. I've been wearing this day and night in the shower, to sleep, and wake up and it's on the back of my head. And again, I've been meditating for 45 years every day. And why are certain things beneficial to make it easier to get to higher consciousness? Why could we say we don't need anything? I mean, I read this incredible book. I'm trying to see if I have it over here, by Michelle Coquette, which is called Stones of the Seven Rays. And she really illustrates how gemstones are used by spiritual masters in all world religions, and why you see all these gemstones in the Bible, and why are they there? Why did Aaron have to wear the breastplate of gems in order to approach, just to get near God on the top of the mountain, and to approach the Holy of Holies temple, just to get near it? And why did he have to have a staff? Because you couldn't get near the Ark of the Covenant without your staff. And why did Jesus say in Mark 6:1-8? I mean, many people here have heard me say this. Why did he tell the apostles you have to have your staff, when we're taught that you don't need anything, right? Well, there's a reason for it. Because when you raise the frequency of the body, think of yourself as a high diver. You're going to jump off this really high platform because you're trying to go higher. So your diver is at 500 feet, but the natural body is only, see, my head is only 6 feet off the ground, right? So if I want to get higher, it's better if I'm sitting on a 500-foot platform and then 1,000-foot platform, right? And because then when I leap, I'm going to leap higher. That's kind of the way I like to describe this. So if the body is higher, it's easier to make that quantum leap to even higher. But if the body is really low, and then you leap, it's like a frog who only got a few inches off the ground.
Cece just left it. Hi, David. Your pendants are life-changing. I recently started wearing mine again after a long break, and it's still as powerful as it originally was. It's the Trinity in amethyst with white topaz, infinity frequency added.
Yeah, that's great to hear, Sassy. Yeah, that's wonderful. And that Sassy, actually worked for me in Sedona, Arizona, so many years ago, and my wife Crystal. It's wonderful to hear that. I mean, yeah, you can take it off, and then I've had so many people do this, and then say, "Oh my God, I need to get another one. I broke it." Because now that I don't wear it, I can see what it's doing. Now I've had people say when they put it on, they got all these little shivers, and when they could feel this huge adjustment happening in their nervous system. But once you're used to being higher, you get so used to it, you think, well, then what is this thing really doing? You don't know until you take it off. And it takes about 3 days to come back down again. So that's why the yogis and yoginis, that's why the prophets in the Bible, they all use these tools. Every prophet in the Bible had their staff, and their staff had sapphires and rubies. Absolutely. We know this from the research. So why did they do that? Was it just something pretty to walk around with? Well, we already did a whole episode on the staff. So anybody wants to see that, it's on my YouTube channel. But the thing now that's happened, like anything, like everybody remember when the word tachyon came out, faster than light energies and faster than light particles, and all of a sudden everyone said they had tachyons. I mean, I actually had a personal conversation with the UC Berkeley physicist Raymond Chow, who actually generated true verifiable tachyons in the lab at Berkeley. And he said, we're generating faster than light energy, but we don't know why it's happening. And I was trying to tell him why it's happening. And we got into this incredible conversation. And I thought, I wonder how many people, if you don't know how it's happening, then how can you generate tachyons? I can say that I can generate tachyons because I've had this conversation with Raymond Chow, and I know how he did it. And I don't know how many people who use the word tachyon are really generating tachyons. But the human physiology, what Raymond Chow called biophotons, and he's a German, biophysicist, actually proved that the human body, in response to impetus, can generate faster than light signals. The human nervous system can do that. That's pretty incredible. Einstein called it action at a distance. But then another word came out, which is called scalar, and Tesla and scalar energy. So all of a sudden, everybody claimed they had scalar pendants and scalar technology. And I don't think most of them even know what it really is. And so, but they just throw it out there because the customer wants to know, does it have scalar? Well, yes, it does in my case. Now, I'm not saying I'm the only one who can generate scalar. I'm just saying beware, because there's a lot of, I had a person work for me for 2 years in marketing, and said that, he could take over all my manufacturing of my products. He started making them cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So, and he stole most of the company profits, almost all of it. And then he claimed all my frequencies were his, and he invented them. And he has a large following today, and he doesn't know what the heck he's doing. So, is there a cheap way to receive scalar energy from crystals? Ashanti says. Well, there's people selling this is highly polished amethyst. Very real amethyst. I've had people send me amethyst. See if I have some around here. And I leave it in the sun. And guess what happens to it? It turns white. It's not amethyst. So what does that mean? It means you have to be really careful, because there's a lot of low quality gems and stones out there being made into pendants, and they're just garbage. You can go to the gem shows in Tucson, Arizona, and see what they pay for these stones. And this is high-end lapis here from Afghanistan. Very hard to get. It's hard because there's no light. Let me see if I can get. You can't really see the beautiful color in this particular one because I don't have white in front of my webcam. There you go. You can see some of the blue right there. And again, you get good lapis. Nobody has amethyst like this. Nobody. I can go into any store in Sedona, Arizona, anywhere. Nobody has real amethyst. It's hard to get real amethyst now. Did you know that? Because buy some amethyst, put it in the hot sun. If it turns white, it was just dye. Because when the stone gets really hot, it'll melt the dye and it'll come out of the amethyst. So good stones are expensive, and I only use good stones. So my pendants, cost a bit of money. They can range from $200 and go way up depending on what people want in them. And then they go through this vibrational activation process. And there's also custom, because I can put Flower of Life frequencies. I can put Ark of the Covenant frequencies. I can put the staff of Jesus, Moses, and the prophets in the frequencies. I've got a massive library. It's too big to even mention. I'm going to have to do a whole show just on my frequency library so you understand what the differences are and what you want to tune your nervous system to. Now, one of the big reasons we want to keep our nervous system tuned is because of all the microwave towers, the cell phone towers, the internet towers are bombarding our nervous system with microwaves, and they are detuning us on a regular basis. You can walk around any town with one of these, go to trifield.com and turn it to the red, turn the dial to the red, which measures up to 8 gigahertz waves. And you can walk around I've done this in Boulder, Colorado. I've done it in Santa Fe. I've done it in my town. And there's so many microwaves around you all the time, almost everywhere you are. Even driving down the highway, you'll go by one of the towers and the meter will go crazy. So we're getting hit by all this microwave activity, and there's no studies done on the consequence to what it's doing to the body. So my theory is, if it's detuning us, we need something to keep us tuned. Just like a guitar or a sitar goes out of tune. It eventually goes out of tune. And Pythagoras called the human instrument the musica humana. We are musical instruments, and we too go out of tune. So you just need to tune the human instrument. And there's many ways to do that. I mean, you can lie in my bed systems, or use one of my wands or staffs, or the pendants to and do regular tuning. Like, I'll give you, this is a personal story. This just happened. So I hadn't used my frequency bed, which is, in my office, is lying right underneath this bed here, queen size bed. And I decided to do 2 sessions. I did what are called resurrection frequencies. When Jesus resurrected, the apostles caught 153 fish. So the number 153 is one of 2 numbers in my resurrection series, times a series of octaves, which is the most beautiful sounding, acoustically sounding track. So I retuned myself, and then I did a session on my staff before bed. And when I went to sleep, I had the most beautiful religious dream last night. Incredible. So when I meditate every day, I can go into this incredible, wonderful, supreme ecstasy, smooth bliss state. It's better than any pill anybody could ever give you. I still can't seem, it's what I'm saying is the frequencies seem to take my creative mind, which is the dreaming mind, to a much higher level, right? And why, I also found it interesting, why is it harder and harder to lucid dream? And it makes so much sense that the microwaves from the microwave towers have created a spider web with which our astral body can't get out. Now, in a book by Claude Swanson, who's another MIT physicist who also worked for Magwitch, my former boss, on nuclear fusion. I met Claude and spent time with him in the early days. He noticed a study done by the Monroe Institute and Robert Monroe. And what they did is they surrounded Monroe's sleeping area with a cage of wires, and using certain disharmonic frequencies, he couldn't get out of his body. He was trapped. And this guy, Monroe, knew how to get out of his body every single time, but not with certain disharmonic frequencies. And I realized this is how you're to trap the human civilization even further, is using all of the hundreds of thousands of microwave towers all over the earth and running the internet on disharmonic bands. The human astral, which is our creative potential, right? If you want to creative insight and idea, you need to get out of what is known, which is inside the spider's web, the World Wide Web. You can't get out because you're trapped. And there's 2 ways to create a trap. You can give people lots of distractions. I still can't get anywhere near, even though some of my films have had over 50 million free views on YouTube, like Quantum Communication, which has been renamed Mind Science Kept Hidden. It's been renamed so many things with millions of views. So, but I still can't beat the dog and cat videos, which can get 50, 60, 70, 100 million views, right? So I can't beat the dog and cat videos. So why does everybody want to watch dog and cat videos and they don't want to watch anything interesting? That's the other way to create a mind trap, right? Get everybody watching nonsense on TikTok, and then they'll never get out of the box. So how do you get out of the box?
So back to the pendants, David. Somebody was asking, is it okay if you wear pocket, for example? Does it really matter if you wear it at your heart or anywhere else?
Well, see, I'm wearing mine. This is the thymus gland up here. This is a very, we
Right.
actually got real Aswan granite from Egypt, which is the core masonry of the Great Pyramid. I'm trying to find my printer. Here it is. And this is Aswan real granite, and it's highly polished. And this is real gold with an alexandrite. But this alexandrite, 8 millimeters, is lab grown. Why? Because a real one would cost at least $30,000. Because a good alexandrite that's natural and clear, that big, would be too expensive for me. So I've got a lab grown one in there. So it's really a special piece. But again, my pendants start in the $200 something range, and they go all the way up, depending on what a person uses, right? And for a while, I tried to come out with an affordable one, which was the Merlin Gold Brass with the vibrational imprint that our son made in water on the surface, but everybody wanted the better ones, so I stopped selling those. And I could feel them. There's no doubt that I could feel even the brass. I mean, I took my pendant off and just wore the brass for months, and I could totally feel it. But even though it was very affordable, it just seemed like hardly anybody wanted them. So I couldn't make them anymore. So you can get these pendants again. You go to davidsereda.co, SEREDA.co, like company. And that is my only website. If you see any other websites with my name on them, they are fake. There's even fake David Sereda pages on Facebook because people hack me and try to get people to go to their website and buy their stuff and claim it's mine. So do they have to be worn as a necklace? Actually, some people put them in a glass of water and then they drink the water. And we've done tests on this, and the water does restructure. Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I've seen incredible experiments with as simple as vibrational tools put into polluted waterways, and within 6 months, that polluted waterway starts to ecologically restore itself, just using simple vibrations. So they don't just have to be worn as a necklace. Nope, you can put them in water. You can just put them under your bed. I've had people just put them under the bed, under the pillow. And of course, when you change the sheets, if you shake the sheet and it goes flying and hits the wall, you might break it. So you better be careful if you do that. Can you think of anything, Shiroz, that I missed?
Every time I go to ask you a question, it kicks me out. It's very suspicious. So
Yeah, we might be getting hacked. I mean, we get hacked a lot.
and so the one question was that you don't necessarily have to wear it on your neck. You can wear it, or you can put it in water.
You can get a longer chain and put it on the heart. You can put it really long and put it on the belly.
Can you talk a little bit about just the different gems and what their properties are and
Well,
why you chose them?
Well, the base donut toroid, I mean, this is really clear lavender amethyst. I mean, most amethyst is really dark and has a lot of hard inclusion. So when we made them into toroids, they could break, they were brittle. So we use amethyst, Brazilian blue quartz, green aventurine, hematite, which is a natural iron ore. The lapis, we use clear quartz. I mean, this one is a trillion design with clear quartz, and that's a lab grown ruby in the center. Again, a real ruby that size, I mean, minimum $30,000, right? And lab grown rubies are the ones we get are from Germany. They're high quality. They are a ruby under the microscope. In every way, that is a ruby, except for it's not grown in nature, but it is a ruby. Now, when I pick up lab-grown rubies, I can't feel anything. But once they go through my process, my fusion dried process, and get imprinted, I can totally feel them. I mean, I just get little shivers. So we use lab-grown sapphires. Again, sapphires are one of the most expensive stones that nature makes. Like the throne of God in the book of Ezekiel is made out of sapphire, and the staff of of Moses, I mean, there is a legend that it's made out of sapphire. Sapphire is an aluminum ozone crystal, basically. It's aluminum and O3, and also it has some trace minerals in it. Aquamarine, I mean, people put aquamarines in the center. I mean, this is a vibrationally activated bracelet with a really nice big aquamarine in it. It's my Thor bracelet. I've been wearing this for years. I hardly ever take this thing off. Yeah, the hematite that we use is highly polished, beautiful stuff. And again, it's an iron ore. I mean, hematite is really grounding. It's good for people who are too spaced out. They need to ground because they're too flighty, and they have a hard time just being right here, right now, being centered right here, right now. So we also can get jade, although jade is beautiful stuff. It's quite soft, so if you drop it, it can chip. It's not super hard, although I haven't had a problem with them. But again, if you drop one of these on a hard surface, it's going to break.
Is the hematite magnetic or not?
Well, see, there's three types of magnetism. There's ferromagnetism, means that you can take a metal and make a permanent magnet out of it. So you can use iron, and hematite is one of 4 or 5 iron ores, right? So in that sense, it's magnetic, but I don't magnetize the hematite that I use. I don't need to, because what I'm doing is way deeper than that. The next type of magnetism is diamagnetism, and those are metals that when they're in a magnetic field, they form like fields, so they'll repel each other. Like if you take 2 ends of a magnet are the same, they'll push away from each other. And paramagnetism is the opposite. So those are the 3 types of magnetism we know. But then there's also superconductivity magnetism, which is when there's no resistance to the flow of energy, electricity in a coil or in a circuit. And if there's no resistance, you get much more powerful and much more efficient magnetic fields. So you don't get any heat or radiation. So there are, so if you're too flighty, Paola, then you would need something like amethyst contains iron. It has trace iron in it, and it has other minerals that give it that nice purple lavender color. So it's a crystal, but it's also grounding. But again, good, highly polished amethyst like this, you won't see a stone like this in any store anywhere. We have them cut and made, and they're a bit more pricey than the other stones. I would say the lapis and the amethyst are the most expensive base stone.
Someone's asking about the tensor rings that are in the pendants.
Well, those are just okay when they're charged. That's part of the imprint is the coil design around them, the tensor, shape and design. And when you wear it, it definitely acts as, I mean, it will induct, it will pick up fields, and it will reharmonize those fields. So they kind of act like a very weak little antenna because they're made out of conductors. Somebody said they were wearing a magnetized hematite when they got horrible illness last year. Yeah. Again, I know what you can make a magnet out of hematite because hematite is iron. So you can use nickel, iron, neodymium, ceramic, but most ceramics are basically iron. Cobalt. I mean, there's any rare earth material can be permanently magnetized as a ferromagnet, right? But the other metals are magnetic, but only in the presence of a magnetic field. They don't permanently magnetize. Well, intuition and psychic ability, Timothy, is really blue topaz is the most affordable one for that. I mean, I think those qualities are named really well in Michelle Coquette's book, Stones of the Seven Rays. Aquamarine is really good for improving psychic ability and intuition. An aquamarine is beryllium, and beryl is one of the actually beryllium has the fastest vibration, meaning it'll carry a vibration faster than anything on earth. There's nothing that vibrates faster than beryllium. So beryllium stones are aquamarine and emerald. Actually, emeralds have beryllium in them. So
You read the one about the protecting EMF and enhancing psychic.
yeah, well, lapis is harder and harder to get, Sean, especially good stuff. Like I can go into any store. There's so much fake lapis that's got dye in it. Again, all you got to do is heat it up and the dye comes out. It's really amazing. Like beware of cheap stones. I wouldn't even bother if I saw, like I had a guy who worked for me in California. This was years ago. And he decided to copy everything. He didn't even know how my lab worked. And he claimed that he could do the same thing. And everything he used was super cheap quality. And he stole a lot of my customers. People thought cheaper price. Well, I'll just pay less and get the same results. No, you won't get the same results. But that's what people have done to me.
Did you answer the question already about whether the frequency stays and how long the frequency stays?
Well, like I was telling you earlier, for people who were earlier, in the studies done on the pottery, it stayed 500 years. I mean, it seems to stay forever. Crystal Shaman, I had an experience in the Akasha about neodymium magnets. Yeah, neodymiums are the most powerful ferromagnets. Does shungite help with EMF? Like, if people feel it does, then it does. Shungite is, again, to make a toroid out of shungite is, I mean, you could put a shungite crystal in the middle of one of my trillions or one of my flower of life. If you go on my website and you go to the pendant section, davidsereda.co, you can get any custom gem put in the middle of your pendant. I like shungite. It's beautiful stuff. It has a deep green color, No, the magnet, again, these aren't magnetized. My pendants aren't magnetized. And what happens in a ferromagnet is if you take iron, right? The crystal, it's called the polarities, the north-south polarities in the matrix of the crystal. It's kind of like throwing spaghetti, and your north-south is in all the different directions of the spaghetti. But when you run current through a rare earth material like iron, a lot of the spaghettis line up in order. And then when you remove the charge, only some of them drop back out of alignment. And because they're holding that alignment, they maintain a magnetic current. So that's what makes a permanent ferromagnet. Whereas paramagnetic metals and diamagnetic metals don't do that. They only show the alignment of the polarities of the dipoles when there's a magnetic field applied to it. Yeah, neodymium is extremely powerful. Yeah, so they come standard with the sound of the sun. lately I've been putting the resurrection frequencies for people in them because of what the planet's going through. And I mean, there's over 110 frequency bands in the resurrection frequencies based on, it's all based on the number 153, the number of fish the apostles caught when they first saw Jesus after the resurrection. So the fact that there's the number 153 is a huge lecture. It's really an incredible realization. It's also the number numerologically for Mary Magdalene's name. So you can do the pendants have one main frequency. Yeah, I have people order 3 to even 5 frequencies for the same pendant, and it's a 2-day process. So it doesn't happen in 5 minutes. They get programmed over the course of 2 days. So it takes quite a bit of time, which is.
And what if somebody has a star coil and they're running frequencies through it? Would it affect the pendants at all?
It'll affect them temporarily.
Right.
They might feel energized for a matter of an hour. So for people who have my coils, if you put any crystal on the coil and run the frequencies for 45 minutes, and then you can put them on a client's body along their spine and do a treatment on them like that. But an hour later, I can't feel anything. No, that's not how I do it. It's much deeper than that. It's more of it resembles a nuclear fusion drive. I mean, Magwich's fusion drive was called Migma. In fact, you can Google Migma, M-I-G-A, and it was this incredible magnetic field chamber, and the magnetic beam comes in and bounces off the walls and forms what is like a flower of life magnetic field pattern. So it's much more like Magwich's Migma was a multi-million-dollar machine, the machine he made. And the machine I made, I mean, I had to get welders and people to make the parts for me. It's all handmade. It's handmade electronics. There's nothing in there except for my power supplies that are man-made. Do you advise what a knucklehead like me should buy? Well, Timothy, you know what I say to people? Go to my website, to davidsereda.co, go to the pendant section, and you'll have a feeling when you see a picture of the one that's right.
I agree.
People just have a feeling. They're usually right. I mean, Ceci used to run into that. Resurrection frequency, Ceci, is exactly what it sounds like. It brings you back from the dead. Believe me, I went through the dead. I lost my wife to death at a very young age, and I've got 2 girls here to raise by myself, and I'm 60 years old. So believe me, I had to come back from the dead. I use the resurrection frequencies through my bed all the time. They're my favorite right now. Those in the holographic pyramid are I've run all the frequencies through my body. The Ark of the Covenant. I have all the Ark of the Covenant frequencies. I have the Holy of Holies in my body, and it's just like playing frequency music to your nervous system. See, our civilization, all the creative insighting, all the emotions we feel are stimulated by our music scale, the chromatic music scale, which is A, B, C, D, F, G, and the flats and sharps is 12 tones plus your octaves, a major third, perfect fifth. That's all of it. All music is made to that, except for a few alternate organic music scales, and all the emotions you're having when you're listening to music in a movie are all being stimulated by those known frequencies. And when you start understanding that there are so many missing frequencies that we haven't explored yet, we don't know what people will feel if I give you the music scale of the Holy of Holies, right? And I've been lecturing about this in the Gospel of Philip. Jesus says he is the Son of the Holy of Holies. He is the Holy of Holies incarnate. You know, the central cubic temple in Solomon's temple, which in the time of Moses was a 10 by 10 cubic tent, and the Queen's chamber is a 10 by 10 by 10 cubic cube. So they're the same. They have the same measurement. So what frequency is captivated within that cavity, right? And then you have to calculate all of its octaves coming off of it. And that's what I did.
I have a question, David. So back in the day, in the biblical times, they used to wear breastplates. And on the breastplate, they used to have multiple different stones on it.
Yeah, the breastplate of Aaron has 12 stones in a square. Right. So which is like a two-dimensional cube, right? So it's
right.
And for him to go anywhere near the Holy of Holies, he has to have that on. When he went up the Mount Sinai just to get near God, he had to have his staff and the breastplate of gems and the blue ephod. He had to have the ephod, which is the blue sapphire robe. Otherwise, he's not, there's too much energy radiating from the manifestation of God on the mountain. It would incinerate a human being. And therefore, God told Moses and Aaron to put markers around the mountain and tell the people not to cross the markers or they would die. It's not that God would kill them. They're not tuned properly without being prepared and having the 12 gems on a breastplate and a staff to electrically ground them to get anywhere near that energy field. It's way, way too powerful.
So when they're wearing the breastplate, because it's on a breastplate, it grounds them?
Well, he's wearing a square breastplate right here with the 12 gems. They're all named in the book of Moses.
Yeah, I remember.
He's got everything in there: sapphire, ruby, beryl.
So when you're wearing one pendant with one stone, are you getting the principle of only that one stone then?
We have to understand the manifestation of the Supreme Being on the Sinai is such a powerful transmission. There's very few human beings that would survive anywhere near it, even if they were wearing the breastplate of gems. You have to be trained.
Right.
When I met Christ in person, which has happened over 7 times, you just fall flat on your face. You can't look at him for more than a second at a time. He's too powerful. Now, over the years, knowing that if Christ guided me to decode the length and the calibrated frequency of the staff, as in Mark 6:1-8, Jesus said the apostles had to have their staff. And the reason they had to have their staff is he was going to appear to them in his new higher frequency resurrected body. And they would incinerate if they didn't have that calibrated frequency rod in their hand when he appeared to them. They had to have it, or he wouldn't appear to them, because he knew they wouldn't survive. And one time he appeared to me in Topanga Canyon. There's 2 bodies. There's the physical body of Christ that walked on the earth, and then there's his resurrected body. And his resurrected body is much more beautiful. It's much more like, it literally looks like this. I mean, this is what I saw in his, but that's not what his physical body looked like. Okay, so I mean, this painting was done by an artist that actually met Christ in the resurrected form as well. But his face is blinding. And the love and the ecstasy and the peace and the power and the beauty and the wisdom and the grace and the geometry radiating off of Christ's supreme resurrected form, you're lucky if you could last 2 seconds looking at him until you're trained. So imagine God appearing on the Sinai like that. There's nobody's going to survive the tremendous radiation. Now, another time he appeared to me, what he looked like physically. He had a very thick neck. He looked 90% to what the Salvator Mundi painting looks like that Da Vinci did. He was powerful. This was not a wimpy man. He had huge arms, like unbelievable muscles in his arms. And he stood in front of me, And in the Shroud of Turin, the measurement for Jesus is exactly the same as me. It's 72.05 inches, which is a smidgen over 6 feet. So he was hovering. So he looked taller than me because his feet aren't touching the ground. But I didn't last 3 seconds before my nervous system started to heat up and incinerate in 3 seconds. And he knew if I had my staff and I was electrically grounded, I could have kept looking at him. But I didn't have a breastplate and a staff. I was totally unprepared. So
Is there a benefit to going silver or gold?
is there? Well, gold is of course the highest calibrated metal, right? So I mean, I'm wearing we have gold fill. Now, gold fill is the same price as silver, and it's much thicker and deeper than gold plating. So gold plating is very cheap. It's like spray paint, right? So we have gold fill, but this one is solid gold. And of course, manufactured gold into jewelry is more expensive than the actual gold itself, right? And plus, we charge for all of that. So, but they're worth it. I've had this for years. I've been wearing this for years.
Yes, Peggy. People use our wands for their cats and dogs and all kinds of things.
Oh yeah, when our dog Nula was dying, she was in so much pain with this little Westie, and Crystal and I, she was suffering so much. We put the wand next to her, and she'd go right to sleep and get out of pain. Now, I mean, she was at the end of her life. I mean, when a dog's at the end of their life, they're at the end of their life. She still died about a year and a half later, but we could get her nervous system to stop trembling in pain and go to sleep just by putting the wand right next to her dog. And so the dogs, pets, can also benefit from pendants. If you really love your dog, of course, they're going to break these things. I mean, these would be great for dogs because they're made out of metal. But I had these made in Nevada. I don't know where to get them again. I don't know. I mean, again, I had to buy so many of them. And because I wanted to give people a lower price point to get into the vibrational energies and technology, but it took years to sell them. Nobody really wanted them. They would see that, and then they would see something really nice, and the customer wanted something nice. So they tend not to buy the lower price point stuff.
Should your zodiac sign align with the stone?
I have a husky too. Actually, my husky got into a fight, I think, with some coyotes today. He's got a nice gash on his leg, but he's fine. He's not crying. He's only a year and 3 months.
Did you get that question, David?
What?
Should your zodiac sign align with your stone?
You can do that. That's all in Michelle Coquette's book, Stone of the Seventh Ray. I'm trying to find it over here. I must have that book in the house. Let me just see. Because if I hold it up, people can see.
Yeah, I have it too.
See that book right there? No, right there. Right there. The one behind that one. The one behind that one. That one, yeah. Thank you, baby. This is an incredible book.
Yeah, I've read that. That's a really good book.
It's incredible. Michelle Coquette is saying that all your amethyst on a certain date will transform into a superstone because she's recorded. I mean, this book is really worth reading. Anybody who's interested in the power of gems in spiritual practice should read this book. Anybody who believes, and that's why we use the best stones. I mean, nobody has amethyst toroids like this. Nobody has lapis like this. I've looked. I'm telling you, it's there's so much garbage out there. I wouldn't wear anything that is not high quality. Oh, Ceci said I put a toroid on my honey girl, little dog, and it got her to stay with me for 6 extra months before passing away. So helpful. It had the standard treatments in it. Yeah, we members, Nua Sussy, our dog Nua, she lasted another year and a half, and then it was over for her. But you know, dogs don't live much past 11 or 13, and it's just the way they are. So it is so sad when they suffer in the end. So it's more about alleviating their suffering in the end than it is about thinking they're going to live to be 100. I don't know a single dog that has lived to be 100. Does anybody have a dog that lived to be 100? Right,
No,
Astoria?
not that I know of. I don't know anybody.
Astoria, come say hi to Ceci really quick. Ceci, you haven't. This is our littlest daughter, Astoria. Come on over here. Come on, this is Astoria. This is my little one. My other daughter is much bigger than her. She's 6. So, anyway, everybody, thank you for being here. Check out davidsereda.co. And we're going to have a replay linked for this. And so that people can, watch the replay. So,
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, it'll be on David's YouTube. It'll also be on David's Facebook, and you can easily grab it from the replay.
There's my Rosie Bear. She has more energy than anybody alive. All right, thanks, everybody. Ceci, send me an email, davidsereda@hotmail. It's the same. I'd love to hear from you. Take care, everyone. Have a good night.
Take care, everyone. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining, Ceci, and thanks everyone else for joining too. Sorry, I don't know what happened. I couldn't ask him the questions we planned on, but hopefully we covered everything. And we'll see you next time. If anyone needs any help, please message me. You can even call me. There you go. You can call me, and I happily would love to talk to anybody, whether it's about the pendants or anything else. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye, everyone. You're welcome. Love his Thor bracelet. Yeah, his Thor bracelet, it's pretty cool. But they're expensive to make custom. Well, I mean, if you value quality, then they're not, but see you guys soon. Share the video, share David's website. Please help promote David's message and products, because they're quite phenomenal and quite unique, and the quality beats everything else out there that you could go and check out. Okay, everyone, have a wonderful night. Back again next Monday at 5:30 PST. And the next transmission is going to be at the end of the month, so I'll keep everyone posted. Bye for now.